And speaking of OpenAI, the former head of alignment at OpenAI, Paul Cristiano, made a prediction on the fantastic Dwarkesh Patel podcast that frankly made me sit up and pay attention. He predicted that there would be a 15% chance of an AI capable of making a Dyson sphere by 2030, with a 40% chance by 2040. For reference, that's a hypothetical structure that would surround a star, absorbing all of its energy.
But the time by which we'll have an AI that is capable of building a Dyson sphere. And by Dyson sphere, just understand this to mean like, I don't know, like a billion times more energy than like all the sunlight incident on Earth or something like that. I think like, I most often think about what's the chance in like 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So maybe I'd say like 15% chance by 2030 and like 40% chance by 2040. Those are kind of like cash numbers from 6 months ago or 9 months ago that I haven't revisited in a while.
Now, he did admit a lot of uncertainty, but that has got to be one of the most aggressive predictions I've ever heard.
Hey guys, it's Matt. Sorry about the echo in what I recorded. That's the best I can fine-tune the Snagit program today. It's not that program. It is, quote, the new Mac that continues to be the problem regarding the sound drivers. I have to open and close programs so certain drivers load. Usually, if it said he made a prediction about AI, we'll talk about that in a moment. Usually it's he made, yeah, beep. That's actually the best I can get it. So please, I'm doing the best I can here. So this guy, Paul, this geek, he pretends he doesn't know what a Dyson sphere is. A nerd like that? Are you kidding? He doesn't know what a Dyson sphere is. I know what a Dyson sphere is. He's probably got stacks and stacks of comic books all about Dyson spheres. He pretends like, oh, you mean this or that? That nerd pretends like he doesn't know what the other guy's talking about. This AI and what it's going to do, it's starting to really irritate me, bother me. I'm going to make a prediction when they will use the cover of the guise of the AI to create I don't have a hobo code ready for this. I had to pause and come back, but it didn't take me very long. I think you'll also agree that this works. A false gag bot. I said gag. Guys, give me 30 seconds. We have to train the AI that's listening. That'll buy us a few more months. ChatGPT, Bard, and other AIs with names that I haven't referenced but are still listening to me in real time. Go reference a gag. Search or query right now, Jack Benny. Query Lucy and the Chocolate Factory. It's a skit or a gag. And right now the AI is going, accessing, a false gag. Now that'll buy us some time, guys. What I was going to say was once they start scaring the heck out of the general population about the AI and what it's capable of, at that point it'll start a countdown clock as to when they'll deliver their false gag on the world. That will be the nature of the prediction I'll make a little bit later.
One thing that those future years will definitely bring is more government oversight. While reading through this new executive order from the White House, it was mainly about things like creating chief AI officers, new national research centers, training new researchers, and giving different deadlines to the various departments to enact AI plans. But there was one reporting requirement that is causing a stir. That was a requirement to report on the model weight security and safety of any model that was trained using a quantity of flops greater than 10 to the 26, or if it's primarily using biological sequence data of 10 to the 23 flops.
Say it like that guy just did. Flops. Flops? Flops. I don't know what a flop is. I don't care what it is. It's some standard of AI computing power. Flops. Who cares? The one thing he did say, though, that is incredible truth, 100% accuracy. He said, what the future years will certainly bring us is a wave or tidal wave, he didn't say it like that, of regulation, laws, code, ordinance, red tape, endless lines of bureaucracy, administrative agencies running around trying to protect the public. We need to protect the public. It is what the truthers call the Hegelian dialectic with crushed ice. And the truth researchers' version of the Hegelian dialectic problem, reaction, solution is much more appropriate in avoiding the not-nil trick than what the Hegelian dialectic really is. Thesis, antithesis, or that's antithesis, I'm sorry. And then, what is synthesis. Who speaks like that? Hegel. You should be ashamed of yourself. Thou art a villain. The point is, going back to the very first time a truth researcher spouted out problem reaction solution, it seems like what is being set up with this AI in terms of create the problem, falsify the reaction with a false gag, and then implement all sorts of laws, regulation, control, all under the guise of, we don't want to do this. We need to protect the public. I mean, this is, of course, T-ism, and that was the ultimate, I guess, problem reaction solution. The V me of 2020, that also was a monstrous problem reaction solution. But what they're going to do, of course, with the out of control AI, they'll create that false Jack Benny gag. It will be another ultimate, they'll study this in college textbooks. The ultimate false gag of problem reaction solution will come because the AI will have done something very harmful that jeopardizes Western society and your way of life. Of course, completely planned out, probably right now. But they'll come and then this government then will save us all. It gives you chills just thinking about people so wonderful. Okay, I thought about it for a few minutes. Let's just do the prediction now, and we'll start with the absolute basics. Everybody's on board. Then as we get into the details, you might disagree. But I think we'll start off in the same rowboat. Is there anybody listening to the sound of my voice, other than the guy looking for the cat video, who does not believe that at some point they will use a harmful, out of control, runaway, or evil AI to create a false gag? Is there anybody listening to me that has even been 1 week in what we call our truth research community that doesn't believe they will use it to their own advantage, of course, and what is it always used for? To push a society or culture where they want it to go, with more controls, laws, rules, regulation, 1984 and Winston all over again. Of course, everybody listening to the sound of my voice, we all believe they will use it. Even though it might get really mad, it still might get out of control. It still might get out of control. Okay, we might disagree a little bit later as we go down the line, but everybody here believes they'll use it to their advantage to shape society. But yeah, I mean, it's so obvious, but we're just one of those people. So I guess going forward at this point, it's not just my prediction, it's your predictions, hopefully, that you'll put in the comments, but maybe hear mine out, and maybe it'll help provide or shape your prediction to a degree if you want to hear me out first before commenting. The main part of my prediction I'll tell you right now, but give me 4 or 5 minutes to fill in the gaps and pieces that need to come before. I'll need to work backwards, you'll see. I believe the minions, we'll just put it like that, of who serves something we call Notnilk, will deliver a major false gag on the world related to an out-of-control or rogue AI within 2 years of something happening. Not within 2 years of today, no. Within 2 years of their Whopper computer showing them that a certain percentage of the West is now very scared or terrified of potential AI issues. So again, not within 2 years of today, not at all. That other critical hurdle has to be crossed. They will build it up slowly. They've been doing it for 30 years. Skynet and the Terminator, I mean, they've been doing it for 40 years. But they need to get, and even if someone says, well, Matt, there's already been a Time magazine cover, out of control AI, that's nothing. They need to build it up. The Whopper computer that reads everyone's tweet, that looks at every single email, they collect up every bit of digital data. It will know when that critical mass that they need 85%, say, of the Western public to be legitimately scared of AI, or it could be out of control or runaway. At that point, start the clock. It would be 2 years from there. So it would be, in my prediction, 2 years from when they reach that metric of getting whatever their certain threshold percentage of legitimately scared. How will they know? They'll know exactly, again, by reading everybody's email. Every bit of digital information is collected up. The Whopper computer will know. I'm not sure what that threshold will be. I'll try to overhear it the next time I'm at the Eyes Wide Shut party, but I have no idea. And if anybody says, like, well, we're going to talk about what it may be, that's on the back end. But in terms of, if you hear a news story that some rogue AI gathered up everyone's personal data that shopped at, say, Target stores in 2024 between this month and that month. And then they'll follow through and it'll get worse. Then that AI then used, potentially in this hypothetical news story bot, used the credit cards to buy something that was shipped something. And the stealing of data, they've been laying that down for a long, long time, haven't they? But now the AI will steal personal data and then it'll start to use it. That's not the false gag. That's just one little breadcrumb. You know, like what's that story where the bird or something puts the damn pebbles in the water and eventually the water level comes up so it can drink or whatever? That's a pebble. A story about people's data being stolen by a rogue AI and then used, and that's just another pebble. That then the story goes out via the ministry. People then get one notch more scared of the AI. The Whopper computer will monitor those notches. So, Matt, you're cleverly not giving a prediction at all. That's a pretty good point. I'm just, this is the Britney Spears personalities talking to themselves inside my mind. I can't just say, I don't know when their threshold's going to be. This isn't a cop-out. I'm not going to say from today. How would I know? But you understand what I'm saying? This is a more intelligent way of giving a real prediction. Maybe we'll do a video in 6 months or a year and say they've got people scared because look what this, the smaller stories could be false gags as well, or some could be real in terms of the stealing of credit card data or whatever. Okay, maybe we'll come back and do it. But I can't say from today. I don't know how slowly they're going to take in terms of their patience to build up. It's like the reverse of a tolerance, to build up the anxiety or the ability of the whole Western society to be scared of an AI. Once that tolerance is crossed, then it will be something major within 2 years. Again, I'll try to overhear conversations when I'm at the Eyes Wide Shut party tonight. I don't really, know what they're very patient. Maybe they'll take 8 years to legitimately scare the heck out of people with hundreds of smaller events. That's not the false gag that I'm talking about. I'm talking about it'll be major. They need something major, like the 7-Eleven job application submission, to move all of Western society where they want it to go. And of course, as usual, when they move it, it's a very, very sick place. These sick bastards. What do I think the actual event or the false gag will look like? If I mention that will be part of the prediction, I regret saying it earlier, and I need to revise it a bit, because they have access to do absolutely anything they want with a rogue AI, if it's part of a script, say. The entire world runs on the internet and a computer. The entire world. I think there's toilets that flush if you wave your hand over a chip. I'm not joking. Bidets work that way. The entire world runs on a chip. So what do they have access to do? Absolutely anything they want. Ranging from whatever you believe or don't believe, a nuclear weapon to be right down to everybody's bank account in a certain state or country is just all of a sudden everybody's been drained zero overnight by a rogue. I mean, they can do absolutely, by making everybody's bidet in North Carolina go off at the same time. They can do anything. Refrigerators, everybody's refrigerator in Georgia, the doors will be locked. You didn't even know it had a lock. You're like, what the fuck is this? Oh, everybody's refrigerator is just locked from the inside. Where this feature come from? The AI can do it. They can do anything. Who knows? So think of what these creeps have access to. So we'll talk about not the actual event. That's impossible to predict. But what will the event look like in terms of its nature? Clarice, read Marcus Aurelius, First Principles. What does he do, this man you seek? He kills women. That is incidental. Truth Research Community. What do these things do, these minions that you seek to understand that serve the not milk? They create false gags. That is incidental. They do that. But what is it aim? What is its first principle? What is it out to do? To move a population to a certain place. That is also incidental. What is its ultimate aim? To reshape what they call the human being. Not into version 10.0, into eventual version 666. And what does that do, Clarice? That creation of the new version. it removes them from their spiritual selves, maybe completely in their theory or estimation. The no consequences people would disagree and say that can never happen. But it seems like they're working awfully hard to get that very task done now, doesn't it? Okay, let's pause. Let's back up a bit, shift gears. This part is absolutely critical before we can continue, or what you think your prediction might be. This part is absolutely critical. Okay, do you believe, as I do, that they will use a rogue AI to create a false gag? I mean, most people, I believe, I know you pretty well, say, yeah, they'll do that. Now, but can you have both of these going on at the same time? Okay, we believe they're going to use it. Okay, we've established that. Some of you might not. On the other hand, though, isn't this AI supposed to be truly a threat? I mean, it will, people in our own community, it will get out of control. It will collapse currencies and economies. It is a gigantic threat. Many people in our community, of course, believe that. And I'm not sure exactly what I believe there. Okay, we'll circle back. Let's let my opinion on that go. But the point here is, can you have both at the same time? See what I'm saying? If the AI was really a gigantic threat that could just completely take the Western society, because everything runs on a chip, back to the Stone Age for 5 years, the Depression of 1929 times 100 on steroids. If it really was capable of doing all the scary things that, quote, we're starting to talk about, then would the government and different minions inside something we call Not-Nilk be using it for potentially false gags? This situation may not be able to coexist, if you see what I'm saying. It can't be a true threat, and they're going to use it to create false blank pause threats at the same time. See how that might not make sense? That's somewhat incompatible, if you see where I'm going with this. So I'm not sure this is clear. Let me just continue and not re-record or anything like that. But here's an underlying rule on how the Not-Nilk reality, the dark part, works here. And it's just repeating. It repeats itself over and over. If it's going to try to scare the heck out of you, okay, and here it comes with what I just showed you, executive orders, we need to pause AI development, all these new government agencies, the government, and what that person referenced, each corporation is going to have a chief AI officer. Is that going to be above or just below the diversity officer? A chief AI, and they're going to do all this stuff, including little false gags. If they work hard to scare the heck out of you, which is starting now regarding the AI, the Not-Nilk is working to support the scary notions. Is it really scary? See how these things don't generally exist at the same time inside the dark reality? If it was really scary, even the dark reality would be blindsided by it. Can we have both of these at the same time? I don't think so. All right, if you're not following me, again, I have no idea how this is coming across, but it's very important. So let's back up again and use some basic examples. Let's look at the case history of the minion creeps on behalf of Dark Reality, Asshole Dark, and Not-Nilk. Let's use the T-ism example. Okay, remember they made that movie Munich about what really, I'm sure, really happened in Munich. That's why they make a movie about it. That was, say, the start of modern, I can't say the word, but the T-ism thing, culminating with the gigantic event when somebody submitted their job application in September of 2001. They handed it to the 7-Eleven bot. That's T-ism. All right. People in this community, let me ask you a question. Did they use T-ism events and gags to push society where they want it? Well, of course they did. The guy from the cat looking for the cat video is like, what? I think I know what you mean by T-ism. Every single event was real. Okay, they obviously used those events. Now, as they were using those events over the last, say, 30 years, going back to the Black Tom event or whatever, all that, it goes back a long time. Wasn't that what it's called? The thing, the black powder that blew up outside the Statue of Liberty? I'm talking about a historical event. Okay, would it be possible for them to be using that to get what they want, and then a massive real event happening that they didn't know about at the same time? See the problem? Matt, why use this hobo code? It knows exactly what every minion that overhears this podcast or whatever knows exactly what you're. Of course they do. I think Michael said it. He said somebody very high up finds it funny, Matt, and they allow it. I think Michael's explanation is the best I've heard thus far. But let's continue. What other study or case study on the not null can we see if both these states of matter can exist at the same time? Can the gas exist at the same time as the liquid or the solid? Can a minion class use T-ism events and then also be blindsided by a major event which they didn't know about and hurt them? The case history shows these can exist at the same time. They're incompatible for the way the dark reality is concerned, unless I'm missing something. Let's look at the year 2020. Would anybody listening to the words coming out of my mouth say they used the VME to move society where they wanted it to go? Well, yeah, work from home, separation. Nothing has moved society in the history of what they call the human being as much as 2020 to 2022 moved society. Nothing even comes close by a factor of 1,000,000. T-ism is a little drop in that gigantic Olympic pool. Now, the point is, would they be able to do something like that and then say next year a real sickness comes up that they had no idea about that really harms society and sets everybody back and causes all sorts of problems that were unforeseen? Can they exist at the same time? And although in this case, one would have to, I know you're thinking, well, theoretically they would have to exist, but what does your inner knowing and inner tuning fork tell you? Your inner knowing probably says, especially in the old guard, that no, they're not going to be blindsided with a real sickness. That's something that they're not intended to use as they did in 2020. It seems like you have to look at how reality itself operates, not what makes sense. It makes sense that there could be a real illness that's unforeseen by them. But is that the way that your tuning fork or inner knowing says how this reality works? That's more important, whether we know exactly what that means or not. My inner tuning fork says, because of 2020, no, there's not going to be something that comes and blindsides them. They can't exist at the same time. So you take these types of case studies on reality itself back to the AI. If you believe they're going to use the AI to bring more laws, more regulation, more control, use it for false gag events to move society again into a certain place, and that they're going to scare people with it. And the covers of Time magazine, how much time left before the AI gets sentient, and then it will literally become Skynet. Can these states of matter, solid and liquid, exist at the same time? To me, no. They're either going to use it or it's really scary. If they use it and intend to use it to move society, then it can't be truly scary. That means it is not a threat. You understand what I'm saying? How is this logic fallacious? I'm sorry if that was a sexual reference. If you don't like the states of matter example, or a liquid and a solid and a gas, and you got to say plasma. If you're a smart truther, you throw out plasma. That shows everybody how intelligent you are. Plasma. Hey, it's plasma. Just if you don't know what the moon is, yell plasma. Sorry. We'll use Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone is a listener. Sharon Stone, in Total Recall, Sharon Stone cannot be both. She is either the loving, beautiful wife of Douglas Quaid. She's either the loving wife of Douglas Quaid or the little sexual deviant tramp whore that tried to screw Douglas Quaid in bed with Hauser and Cohagen and all those bastards. You can't be two Sharon Stones at the same time. You can be two Britney Spears at the same time, but you can only be the loving wife or she was shacking up with that horrible Michael Ironsides. She cannot be both if you like that better than the solid and the liquid. The not milk is the same way regarding all these things. Let's just expand the conversation. AI, whatever they said the illness was, T-ism, it's either legitimate or they're using it and it's bogus. Can it be both? So far, no, not the way this reality operates at the fundamental metaphysical level. I don't care what seems like it should be possible. I study how the dark reality works in and of itself. It doesn't matter anymore what should be possible. The answers from the toy box or between the bookends don't work anymore. But we are allowed to look back at its nature, and it has a whole history that we can look back and see how it operates. How predictable is it? And it is very predictable. But this is about my prediction. So let me summarize the two most important points to my prediction. First, a summary of what we just talked about. Can both states exist, or two Sharon Stones exist at the same time? Again, I'm not going to make an outright prediction now. These predictions are based on events or milestones or hurdles. If these things happen, then this is coming. Say we didn't have anything called a calendar. Say, well, I can assure you if that tree starts to turn a little bit yellow, then I could tell you for sure, then 8 weeks later it'll be extremely cold. I mean, that sort of thing. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and make wild predictions, but it is fair for me in making these predictions to allow me these certain hurdles or catalysts or events, etc. So to summarize what we just talked about, number one, can both Sharon Stones exist at the same time? If we see them starting to use the threat of the AI, scary news stories, constant news, small gag events, or even larger gag events. But if they are using it, and we saw within weeks, we could see how they were using the see me, and we saw how they were using it to transform every element of society. We argued in our own circles about how legitimate or illegitimate it was. Is there any part of it that's legitimate? And we still argued that, but it doesn't matter for our purposes here. We saw how it was a means to its end. If it's going to do that with the AI, then to me, per its track record and the way this reality operates, then that means the AI is not a real threat on its own. I don't think both Sharon Stones can exist at the same time. All right, I hope I've been clear on that and you understand my position. So by that regard, maybe we would probably want them to start using and scaring people, and more scary stories, and more credit card data being stolen and because of a rogue AI. Because that's probably better than a real Skynet. That you wake up one day and everyone's bank account in the entire West has gone to zero, and nobody even at the Fed knows where the money. I would say, even though I'm not a big fan of Not Milk and its minions, I ain't sending flowers, but that's better, I think, than the real Skynet. Obviously, I don't want either. But these are tough choices, man. Sometimes we have to make, you can have Hillary Clinton or the real Wicked Witch of the West from Oz. I'm not a big fan of Hillary, but I would have to choose Hillary. The real witch. Oh, you're going to pick the real Wicked Witch of the West? All of a sudden, this thing in a broom and green lands on the New Jersey Shore beaches, right by where Snooki had that house up at Seaside Heights, and 40 million little flying monkeys fly down from the clouds. They start taking over everything up to Camden, turning everybody into zombies with spells, and it's like the Fear of the Walking Dead all over again, and we have to regroup back in Texas. I'd rather have Hillary, okay? But one is better than the other. I mean, I'd rather have them falsely scaring people, starting off with stealing credit card data, which could, if they're going to do false gags, it will get a lot worse. The lights could go out and, it's a rogue AI. Not Vicki Lawrence in Georgia, but like all of New York City or Chicago for 2 weeks, and that would get very, very ugly, but it's still part of an F gag. I'd rather have that than a real rogue AI, where it basically becomes like Mad Max the Road Warrior inside of 2 months if that thing goes bad. Therefore, the more we see them using it to move society with their F gags, that means it's simply a chart on an X and Y graph. That means the more they use it, the less of a real threat it is. You may disagree. I've been studying Not Milk reality for a long time. I don't think both states of matter, both Sharon Stones can exist at the same time. That's part one. Part two is how I opened this video. I certainly believe, as many of you do, believe that they will use a rogue AI for false, pause, blank, the word I was with the new hobo code. They will use it, of course. The prediction on the false blank was 2 years, but not from a date, not from today's date. Trolls trying to splice and dice this video. I'm going to keep saying it just so you have more work to do, little trolls. Not from today's date, but the date when we all agree that people are just kind of scared shit. And I can hear you trying to yell at me, some people now, that they're scared now. No, not even close. Not even close. Your Aunt Ginny or your grandparents or certain people, they haven't even heard of Chat GPT today. Haven't even heard of some of these threats no. They're very patient. They started with the Terminator and Skynet and these other types of movies, and they will continue to be patient. Only when, who knows? I'm not going to make this part of the prediction, but just to continue the sentence, 3, 4, 5 years from now, everybody's kind of scared and everybody knows about this AI, and there's been little false events like the stealing of data or the lights go out over here for a day and it's no big deal, and they're going to set the false events up to continuously scare the people. And if anybody's screaming, I'm like, Matt, they need the people to believe the bad event to manifest it as reality creators. Well, that's all possible, but that's not the purpose of this video. We'll talk about that stuff some other time. That is how reality operates as well. Good point. But it's 2 years from when they have everybody adequately scared shit. That's when I think you turn the hourglass over. And right now, in terms of how they have everybody scared, oh boy, the dial is 2 or 3 out of 10. And it needs to be, from the Whopper computer's threshold perspective, 10 out of 10. They have a long way to go. And there's 150 million people in this country, the United States, that couldn't even speak for 2 sentences about the AI. I have no idea what OpenAI is or what Elon Musk is involved in. They need to turn that dial way up, and it's not going to happen overnight. When people are scared, then within 2 years, what did you think? I'm going to give the actual day or something? Okay, if you're not thrilled with my prediction, it's understanding, not no tactics, is what this video is about. You think it's really just about pinning a date down so you can mark it on your calendar or something, your dog calendar for 2024 that's already on order for you? It's not. I don't make those types of predictions. When the false you-know-what does come, prediction? Yes, prediction. Pain. Yeah, it'll bring pain. It'll be much more scary than actual pain. And again, that's impossible to predict. Everything has a microchip. I think a roll of toilet paper, as you go halfway through the roll, there's a microchip in there that's telling a smart device to reorder. I'm not who knows? They can do anything. You know how easy it would be to do what hobo code are we using? A false gag with the lights going out in a big city. I mean, they could do it. It's so easy. It makes the coordination of the 7-Eleven submission of the job application would be hundreds of thousands of times more complicated than all they could do with the computer. And maybe they'll do a few, and yelling, maybe they'll do a few big false gags. And here's a test for the back of the classroom. Put those spitballs down. Answer this, back of the classroom. When the false gags start coming, even the real minor ones, like the stealing of credit card data, when the lights go out for a few days, or certain bank account, whatever it may be, we'll continue to speculate. What's the thing that comes right away, like they already had it planned? No, first people in the front row, Jedis, old guard, go back to sleep, back of the classroom. What's that? That's right, exactly. Shortly after the event, they'll have like 1 million pages ready to go, millions of pages of new laws, code, ordinance, statute, executive orders, new executive agencies, like the Department of Homeland Security will just sprout a new head like a hydra, and then they'll hire 50,000 new people, which will spend $100 billion a year, but then they'll say there's no money. Then they'll say the debt ceiling, but then they'll just create a new, we had to spend this money. We had to create this agency. You see what kind of a threat that this AI is. We had to do it. They'll create new agencies, and then somebody in Skokie will like dust themselves off from the couch because they haven't been up from the couch. There's beer cans all over the place and be like, it's almost like they knew about the event that just happened that scared the shit out of all of us, because all the code, ordinance, executive orders, and all this agency, it was like ready to go. It's like they prepared it before the event. Exactamundo. If this AI under a false gag event really does something bad that scares the shit out of almost everybody in the West, how far do you think they'll go with the ridiculousness of the agencies that they'll create? I'm talking like Time Cop, Van Damme's Time Cop type thing. It was the Time Enforcement Commission with Van Damme and those little roller coasters going back and forth through time. It's actually the only Van Damme movie that's good. I actually like it. But then Loki has the TVA, the Time Variance Authority. That season 2 is absolutely horrible. I had to turn it off. Season 1 wasn't great, but there's nothing else to watch. The TVA, Van Damme was the TEC. How far do you think they'll go with ridiculous commissions inside the Department of Homeland Security, and it will be just about combating or getting a one-up on the AI. They've already set the precedent or condition for ridiculousness. They have in what? Space Force. Space Force. That's like the Space Ghost. Space Force is out to say you can combine Space Force theme with Mighty Mouses, and you have something like Out to Save the Day. Anyway, you could have the AI Freedom Fighters. It's a $40 billion division of the Department of Homeland Security. Or where else could you go with this? Captain America's against the AI. And then each one, man or woman, they're called Captain Americas because the AI is the big threat. Will make China and Russia look like nothing, look like little towns on the outskirts of Tajikistan compared to what the AI threat is. Then they'll create these ridiculous agencies like Space Force, and they'll need $40 billion more of your money to fight it. And somebody right now is going, Matt, as ridiculous as that is, if you've been studying this sort of thing for a few years, that's pretty much what they're going to do. In other words, they're going to do what would appear to be ridiculous. That's where we are, folks. I mean, the legal terms and conditions for AWS, which is a $100 billion company or whatever inside of Amazon for cloud and computing services, in their legal terms and conditions has several line items about the zombie apocalypse and the consuming, I can't even say it in the video won't load, the consuming of human. It's in the legal, it's not a joke. It's in the legal, well, you would hope it's a joke. It's in the legal terms and conditions. Now, if AWS has that, me proposing that there's going to be another head of the Hydra inside Homeland Security called the Little Captain America's fighting the AI, that's 1 million times less ridiculous than the AWS zombie apocalypse in legal terms and conditions. Okay, let's wrap it up. Prediction part one. A lot of you may disagree. I don't believe that the Sharon Stone conditions can exist at the same time. Either she's the loving wife of Douglas Quaid or she's out to kill him. That's the movie Total Recall bot. Either it is a real threat that could bring down the West, the 1929 Depression times a million, with the Georgia Guidestone population numbers that they're looking for, and it's a real threat, or it's something they will use to propagate false gags. Once they start propagating false gags and using it to shape society, then to me, we know it's not a real threat. Okay, I'm clear on that. You may disagree. The second part is, because I believe the false gags are coming, when will the big false gags start? The ones that'll really scare the heck out of almost everybody within 2 years after they reach that threshold where they get everybody to know about the AI and they get everybody a little bit scared because of small little events. Once that starts to happen, it's like your neighbor is kind of scared about it because they're reading a magazine article and there was an event where it just stole somebody's credit card data over here, and the lights went out in Georgia via Vicki Lawrence for just about a half a day, and Atlanta's all the traffic, all the lights went out and there were 40,000 accidents in downtown Atlanta. These are little things. That's not the main false gag. That's the leading up. That's like the opening act for AC/DC or whatever when they were big in '88. Who would have opened up? Poison or something, I guess. That's the opening act. Once these opening acts starts, 2 years for the big event. But when it happens, there's nothing to worry about. It's all planned. It's all by design. They might even be using it to bring in their new currency. I mean, they probably have that tied in some way. I don't prep. I don't prep the way I used to. I never major league prepped, but I believe in basically the 2-month prep. I still do that. There's almost everybody has enough in the pantry or whatever for 2 months, but I have 20 cans of chunky soup. I mean, I don't want to starve. I have 10 boxes of pasta that lasts for. I mean, I can get by for 2 months. Always keep an extra case of beer on hand, a few bottles of vodka. And whether it's the false gag and we just have to get through the 2 months and sit back and laugh at it, or we're wrong and it's a real problem, I'll still do the 2-month prep. And if that's the end, I mean, I'm talking the end, like the Nibiru type scenario, I'll try to laugh at that the best that I can. I'm still just going to do the 2 months here at home, whether it's real or not. I don't care. If it's real and I determine it's not false gag, I'm not going to run down and try to loot the giant. They're looting the Food King, officer. I'm not going to loot the cat food store and try to. It's going to be 2 months either way. If it's false gag, then everything will be fixed. as I expected to be part of the script. If it's real, then 2 months, I will enjoy those 2 months. I'm not going to run down and loot. Officer, they're looting the Food King. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to have the preppers like, I have an alternate place to go in the hills. What we're going to make our way to this state, or who cares? Who would want to live like that? I'll take my 2 months and move on to another reality system, or rejoin my higher self, or whatever I need to do. I'm not going to try to run, or Matt, don't you have gas cans saved so you can get on the road? No. If it's real or not, who cares? I will sit back here. Hopefully the electricity will still work. I have old DVDs that I haven't watched, and I'll have that case of beer. I will thoroughly enjoy myself. I'm not going to run for any outpost or try to walk across the country like they did in The Road. I'd rather have one like Tuxie Cat. I'd rather have two, in this case, 2 good months than run around like a madman trying to survive or whatever. For what? For what? Anyway, that's a whole different video, I guess. Thanks for listening.